Today we shall continue chapter number 1, the modern world. So the headings that we had completed in the previous video were: first one, period of transition, then sources of information, and then we had also finished about the Renaissance. And today we have to continue from characteristics of Renaissance. Okay, now what is Renaissance? Renaissance means that is rebirth, that is the change from one period to the another, that is called Renaissance. Okay, now characteristics of Renaissance. The Renaissance period is characterized by changes in every sphere of life that altered the mindset of the people. So, what is given? That the Renaissance period is characterized by changes in every sphere of life. That is, in every sphere of life there were changes, and Renaissance period is characterized by that altered the mindset of the people. That with the change in the periods, with the change in the life, so people's mindset, that is people's thoughts, also completely changed. The focus of this change was the shift from earlier divine affairs to that of human and secular affairs, as is visible in the art forms of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, or political writings of Niccolo Machiavelli. There was an emergence of the concept of individualism and humanism at that time. So what is given? That the focus of this change was the shift from earlier divine affairs to that of human and secular affairs. That is, what was the main focus of this change? That the change from the previous era to the new modern era. So the focus was mainly the shift from earlier divine affairs, that is, as people had lot of faith on God, they had lot of faith on God and heaven and divinely thoughts they were having. So to change their mindset completely to that of human and secular affairs, as is visible in the art forms of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, or political writings of Niccolo, there was an emergence of the concept of individualism and humanism at that time. And what else was there? That there was emergence of the concept of individualism and humanism during that time. With Renaissance, there was an attempt to challenge the normative. Classical Greco-Roman learning encouraged people to question long-established traditions and ideas on the basis of rationalism, logic, and reason. People started to question the dictates of their rulers and the church. So what is given? That with Renaissance, there was an attempt to challenge the normative, and classical Greco-Roman learning encouraged people to question long established tradition and ideas on the basis of rationalism, logic, and reason. That is, as people were taught classic Greco-Roman, so because of this teaching, people understood and they started to question about the long established traditions which they are following and the ideas on the basis of rationalism and logic and reason. That they started asking lots of questions based on the traditions which they were following. People started to question the dictates of their rulers and the church, and people understood and they started to question the dictates, that is the rulers who were there and the church who were always asking them to follow the traditions. This new spirit of rationalism led to the rise of scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry. Astronomers such as Nicholas Copernicus and Galileo Galilei clashed with the church authorities for their views on the heliocentrism of the solar system. This was seen as a challenge to the power of the church. This led to the sowing of the seeds of modern science, which was later called the scientific revolution. So what is given? That the astronomers during that time, like Nicholas and the Galileo, they also clashed with the church authorities. That is, were they also had clash with the church authorities who were there for their views on the heliocentrism of the solar system. That is, the astronomers who were there, they were having the scientific views, they were having different thoughts, and their thought was completely different from the church authorities, because the church authorities who were there, so they were not having any kind of beliefs on the astronomy. So there was clash between these two. So this was seen as a challenge to the power of the church, and it was like challenging the church, and this led to the sowing of the seeds of the modern science. And this led that, as the difference was there, and these astronomers were having various facts and the reasons behind many things, so that became the modern science, which was later called the scientific revolution. Now, next characteristics of Renaissance is given, that is voyages of discovery. Voyages of discovery, that is, lots of discoveries were there by the voyagers. Voyagers means, that is, those people who traveled through sea route from one country to the other, and then they discovered several other places, countries. So, voyages of the discovery, the newfound mindset of inquiry encouraged a spirit of adventure among the people, which prompted them to undertake voyages of discovery through exploring the oceans and discovering the unknown lands. So what is given? That the newfound mindset of inquiry encouraged a spirit of adventure among the people. That is the newfound mindset, that the now people had started changing their thoughts. They had new ideas, new thoughts. So they started inquiry about several things, and it encouraged people a spirit of adventure among the people, which prompted them to undertake voyages of discovery. That is, this only made them to prompt to undertake the voyage of discovery, that they had in their mind that yes, they should discover, they should go further to find lot of new things. Then, through exploring the oceans and discovering the unknown land, that is, people had in their mind that yes, we have to go through oceans, we have, and discovering the unknown lands. While some individual explorers wanted to gain fame or experience adventure, the major reason for expedition was to discover new trade routes. So what is given? That while some individual explorers who were there, they wanted to gain fame, they wanted to have good name and fame, or experience adventure, and they also had in their mind to experience adventure. The major reason for expedition was to discover new trade routes, and the major reason for expedition means, that is the tour through the oceans. Explorers had in their mind that yes, they should find new unknown lands. So what they had in their mind, what was their aim? Their aim was to discover new trade routes, and many voyages of exploration were sponsored by the monarchs of various European nations, and many voyages which were there of exploration, they were sponsored by the monarchs, that is, by the kings who were ruling there in the European nations. With the capture of Constantinople by Ottoman Empire, many existing trade routes to India and China were shut down. So this we had read earlier, that Ottoman was there, so he had captured Constantinople. Okay, so with his capture to this place, many existing trade routes to India and China were shut down. These trade routes were essential as they brought valuable and expensive products such as spices and silk from the east, and these routes which were there, which were blocked, which were shut down, so that was very important for the export of valuable and expensive products like spices and silk from the east. The new voyages marked an attempt towards discovering new ocean routes to India and the Far East. The exploration were facilitated by the invention of the magnetic compass and by other factors such as developments in sailing and navigational sciences, the construction of huge ships and developments in cartography. So what is given, that the exploration were facilitated by the invention of the magnetic compass. That is, when magnetic compass was discovered, so it became easier for the explorers to undertake the voyage. And by the other factors such as development in sailing, that lot of things were developed which were useful for the explorers at the time of sailing, and navigational sciences and navigation, it was very easy for them to navigate by the development of several equipments. So the construction of huge ships and the developments in cartography was also easier. Now next point is important discoveries during that time, so that we will continue in the next video. Thank you, dear children.